Welcome to the latest episode and the last one of the year of Football Thunders, brought to you by Let Us Talk from Football for Mental Health and the Proper Blokes Club. In today's show, transfer gossip, best strikers, pick, bench, sell, shithousery and more on manager. And right at the end, there's a surprise that Ryan's got for us, and we've no idea about this at all, do we? Hello, welcome along. Dan, how are you?
Good people, just to let you know, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon and I've just got up. So
yeah,
if it takes me a while to get going, that's why.
And I need to explain, I've only been up an hour because I've been down with the virus in it, bruv, for ages, and I'm just sort of recovering, and my sleep patterns are all over the shop because I wasn't sleeping when I was ill. Hello, Ryan, how are you? He's got that evil look on his face, hasn't he?
Good afternoon.
A bit worried about this. I mean, are we going to get any clues at all?
Well, let's just say the title is So You Call Yourself an Addict, and you'll figure that out afterwards.
Me and Ryan went out the other day to the O2, which is, everyone knows what the O2 is, no point me explaining it. We went to Nando's afterwards and we had a little conversation about it, but he couldn't talk, he was too busy giggling, to be honest. So
right.
See what happens.
Okay. Well, this is good news. This is worrying news. This has taken a turn already. Let's deal with transfer gossip. I think, for me, the first place to start, I mean, there's all sorts of gossip flying around, and it is the season for the gossip. The window opens on the 1st, isn't it, on Saturday? Third. It's opening on the 3rd.
On Monday, yeah. One
of the teams, surely, that everyone's got their eyes on and wondering who the hell, how the hell, and what the hell, because they seem to have all the money. Newcastle United is top of the list at the moment because they're clearly going to be active. For me, a defence was a priority for them, because they haven't got one, and I think they need a defence. The midfield is a decent Premier League midfield, is okay. Forward line with Callum Wilson wasn't bad, but Callum Wilson is now long-term injured. They've got to go out. What they do have on their side, other than tons of money, is something that they've used before and that has genuinely attracted players to the club. The film Goal. Across the world, footballers have seen that film. Young players have seen that film. And there are examples where that film has actually worked to get players to come into the club. Such as Callum Wilson said, I'll sit down and watch that film, and it influenced my decision. Jonas Gutierrez said last year, I used to get up to watch English football. I knew Newcastle because of the film. It's quite a few.
Can we have that name again? What was that?
Yeah, no, I'm no good at names.
That one, didn't you?
Yeah, Jonas Gutierrez, I think we're talking about.
Well, I said Masadio Hadera. I get that one right. I watched the film Goal. So there's lots of players that are saying, that film, they know of Newcastle because of one film. I don't think it's going to help them that much, but I think they're already being linked with Kieran Trippier. And I think that's now an already traditional link, Kieran Trippier to Newcastle for this transfer window. What do we think? How do they go about? It's going to be defence, surely. Dan?
For me, I haven't seen a single rumour from Newcastle that I think is a genuine possibility, because the names I'm seeing them linked with are like Aubameyang and Coutinho and Martial and Boubacar Kamara and Gabriel Barbosa. These aren't that's a European club. I think they need to find players are going to try and solidify that back four. Try someone who was linked with them early on was James Tarkowski, someone like that. So just because, as you said, they're back four, Lascelles and Kieran Clark at the back are walking mistakes. I have no idea how Kieran Clark's a Premier League player. So, yeah, I think their first thing they'd have to do is try to find some centre-backs that will help them out. As I said, that all the rumours you see about them, the one I saw before we come on was Wijnaldum coming back. And why would you do that?
Why would any top-class player want to sign for Newcastle? Who's going to want to sign into a relegation dogfight? Because that's what they're in.
The conversation I had with Ryan before was, I can see them getting players that are maybe, in France, in Italy, at that bottom end of the table that maybe have a bit of something about them, because I don't see any players that have potential or class to be really good in England signing for them. I say Tarkowski because he's getting old a bit. Burnley are in a similar kind of position. I don't see them necessarily going out and signing someone who has that aim to be in the Premier League. because why would you want to? Because there's a fair chance they're not going to be come next season.
The downside with signing players from France, Italy, or wherever is there are players that take their time to settle into the Premier League. And Newcastle don't have time for players to settle into the Premier League. They're in a pretty parlous situation. And now without their top goal scorer as well, or their leading, their goals, the man that you would look to get the goals for them. I know he's had his injury problems, but now, I mean, this is a fairly longer term injury, isn't it now? So I'm looking at the very real prospect that Newcastle will go down here, regardless of what they do in the winter. Ryan, what do you think?
Firstly, on the Kieran Trippier link, apparently that's a done deal. It's been reported for weeks. Apparently the contract is sorted. It is just remains for Newcastle to agree a fee with Atletico Madrid. The only reason I can see him wanting to go to Newcastle, besides a big bag of cash, is to come back to England, because any person in their right mind is not going to leave arguably a European elite club to go and sign for someone in the relegation zone of the Premier League. In my personal opinion, Newcastle aren't staying up. They're already down. They're already done and dusted. They can sign 3 or 4 players of the highest quality. It still won't be enough to keep them up. They need completely restructuring that entire team. I believe the appointment of Eddie Howe says to me personally that they're prepared to go down and build for next season and the season after. So I think any players that do come in will be of the mind of doing it in the Championship next season to come straight back up the following season. I wouldn't be surprised if they had a pop for someone like Ben Brereton Diaz, who's out of contract at Blackburn, who's scoring goals at Championship level.
I was just going to mention him. He would be a good Newcastle signing, because he'd come to Newcastle. He'd have the season, half season in the Premier League, and if they are relegated, he's in a place where he knows he can do the business. That, I think, would be a decent signing for them. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, I think him, Eddie Nketiah, those kind of players that maybe haven't got the Premier League pedigree, but we've seen what Eddie Nketiah can do in the Championship. He's young. So is Ben Brereton. They're both 22, 23. The aim to bounce back. My big thing for Newcastle is just don't do what QPR did. Don't go out, buy the big players on big money,
and then get relegated.
Be smart with your money. And even if you like QPR went down to the Championship and they tried it again, didn't they? Where they signed like Nico Crankjar and all these players because they thought they would bounce back up, and it didn't work. So if they do go down, they have to make sure they're buying the right players. You don't want to make that mistake where, you have a squad full of 6, 7 superstars that shouldn't be in the Championship. But if you play them all, you're going to fall on your face. But be smart, buy the right players.
Ryan,
I think just for me, as I said, just to reiterate a point, I think if they were going to do what Dan's just suggested not to do, I think they would have gone for a bigger manager than Eddie Howe. I think they would have gone for someone with a little bit of pull that could bring in some bigger quality players and then tried their luck. I personally believe that they are preparing for next season in the Championship.
With the Eddie Howe thing, I don't think there was a manager of the stature willing to take on the club other than Eddie Howe. I don't see any manager in Europe coming to Newcastle in their current situation of where they were in the league when the takeover happened and what's ahead of them for the season. You're not going to get the likes of Conte or anyone like that signing for Newcastle, which is why they're not going to get the top class players. But they're going to have to, as Dan said, they're going to have to be smart. Otherwise, they could end up with second-rate players, players at the end of their careers. I mean, arguably Kieran Trippier falls in that. Kieran Trippier, he's a decent player, but he's not the youngest. He's 32 now, isn't he? So this is his last move. And this move for Trippier, I don't care what anyone says, this is about money. This is purely about getting a big payday before he finishes. So they've got to be smart, because there are players out there towards the end of their careers looking for one big payday, and they don't care who that money comes from. If it's Newcastle, they'll take it because they've got a guaranteed contract for X millions for a couple of seasons. So they've got to be careful, Newcastle. Dan?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. This has been my point throughout the whole Newcastle debate. Players are going to go there for money and not necessarily play football.
Yeah,
the football isn't. For instance, look at Lorenzo Insigne. He's been at Napoli for, I'm pretty sure, his whole career.
He's off
turning 30, and he's off to join Toronto because basically he's admitted that I wanted a payday. Toronto chucked money at me. I'm off to it. I'm off to America. Newcastle will chuck money at people. They've just got to make sure that when they're throwing money at people, they're not throwing money at
The wrong people.
someone who's past their best and almost their expiry date is out.
Yeah.
Again, like QPR did with Joey Barton and Sean Derry, because they were players of Premier League pedigree. What Jibril Cisse, like Newcastle can't get pulled into that same place because they won't come back up. I think, as Ryan said, I think there's likelihood now they go down, and they just need to make sure that I'm not even sure this window is the one for them. The summer window is probably the one for Newcastle. Be smart.
Be smart.
Be surprised if Newcastle's January window is loans, and that's going to upset the Newcastle fans. But listen, that's how football works. I won't be surprised if January they're bringing 3 or 4 players on loans with views to deals if they stay up, blah, blah, blah. Just smart business decisions.
Okay, let's look at Man United. The manager's had his say this week because Anthony Martial's agent said, he's not staying. Ralphie, bless him, says he's slammed both the player and the agent, really. He said, I don't talk. If the player wants to leave, the player comes to talk to me. The player hasn't spoken to me.
Now. He has now.
Has he spoken to him now?
Yeah, Ragnick has spoke to Martial.
All right, go on.
That's it. Martial has told Ragnick that he wants to leave. That's it. And Sevilla made an offer, a loan offer, and Man United turned it down yesterday. So
Ryan, I mean, Martial's not a loss, is he, for you? Really? Let's be honest.
See you later.
Yeah, I mean, Martial and his agent jumping up and down. And I think Ralph, the manager's handled it pretty well and said, look, if you want to leave, you need to come and talk to me. The player needs to come and talk to me. I don't talk to agents. And he has done that, yeah. But that's a message for the likes of Pogba as well, isn't it? If you want to go, you need to come and talk to me and tell me.
Well, Pogba's going to go anyway because he's out of contract at
the
end
I know.
Of the season. So that's not really quite the same thing. But
well, no, it is. But Martial's out at the end of the season as well, isn't he?
No, he's not. He's still under contract.
Yeah, Martial.
But Pogba might want to go in January. Is what I'm.
Pogba's gone very quiet, so I'm assuming he's just playing the professional, because he told his agent, was it Raiola? He told him, shut up, pipe down. I think Pogba's just going to sit quietly and then walk in the summer.
Fine.
There's a very key reason why Paul Pogba won't be going in January and will go at the summer, is because if he asks to leave in January, he forfeits his loyalty bonus, which I believe is at about £8 million. So if he asks to go before his contract's up, he loses £8 million. What's the point?
Let's look at Borussia Dortmund. The rumours are in the build that they're trying to put the deal to persuade Erling Haaland to stay with them. Do you think they've got any chance of that, or do you think he's off on going somewhere in the summer?
He's gone in the summer.
He's not gone in January?
No, he'll go in the summer. There's that release clause in. Ryan said it last summer when we discussed this at the summer. He's got a release clause which more or less halves what he's worth. He's going to be going for 60-70 million pounds. I think it's something silly like 67 million pounds. So teams will wait. No one's going to spend money on him now. Let's
go through the clubs sort of one by one. Arsenal.
Just before we do that, the one that is continually to tickle me, I don't know if anyone's following it. Ousmane Dembele at Barcelona.
Yeah, go on.
He's single-handedly pulling Barcelona's pants down.
He talks have broken down, and he's free in the summer, isn't he? Is that right?
But this is a player that was fantastic for Dortmund. Has gone to Barcelona, has played awful, can't stay fit. Has had half a good season this year. He's done quite well in a struggling Barcelona side.
Sounds like a Newcastle player to me.
And he has everyone is going on about how Barcelona are desperate to keep him, but he'll only sign on his terms. If I'm Barcelona, I'll say, well, you've been here 5 years. You've showed up for half of them.
Yeah.
There's a door. See you later. And because I've seen Everton linked with him, Newcastle linked with him, Tottenham linked with him. And this makes me think, when you look at that quality of side that are after him, Barcelona are struggling here.
Yeah.
That shows the fall of Barcelona.
Those three names you just mentioned tell you at the level that he's going to go. He's not going to go to Real Madrid. He's not going to go to Paris Saint-Germain. He's going to go to a lesser league club, isn't he?
Yeah,
clearly.
Exactly. Because although his talent's there, he looks like he has he's been said to have, I don't know what the right term is, behaviour issues, whatever you want to say. Like, he's maybe not the best professional, supposedly. And also injuries. Barcelona, if he's saying to Barcelona, you have to give me this, and this, or I'm leaving. If I'm Barcelona, I'm saying, all right, off you go. While we're on Barcelona, the other one that made me laugh is that Barcelona are in advanced talks with Alvaro Morata.
Right.
I mean, I know their strike force isn't great, but is Morata?
If he's the answer, what's the question?
I'm not sure.
So, let's turn our attentions back to the UK and England specifically. Arsenal, are we looking at them? What are they now? I mean, Aubameyang, I mean, he looks like a busted flush at Arsenal now. Stripped to the captaincy. Go on, Dan.
I don't think anyone's going to pay for him this part because he's on a huge wage.
He's on a huge wage. Is he not a prime candidate then for Newcastle?
Well, the thing is, it's a possibility. However, you look how much money he's on, the length of his contract. Arsenal aren't going to want to let him go, I think cheaply. I don't know how long his contract is. Is it till next year? So teams could just wait for...
Yeah, but, and I'll bring up Newcastle again. They can't afford to wait, can they?
As I said...
It's not a sensible deal for them, is it really?
Well, not even so looking at what you know from Aubameyang, the issues that Arsenal have had. One, it's not financial. It doesn't make much sense. Two, would you want someone in your building that has been kicked out of his previous club?
Well, the thing is, depends how desperate you are to. If you are desperate to stay in the Premier League this season, then maybe that's a deal you try and look to do. Callum Wilson.
Going back to what I said about them doing smart business, that's not smart business. You're bringing in someone who has off-field problems. Clearly, the dress. I'll say it. I don't know if it's true because I'm not in the changing room, but I find it not a coincidence that Arsenal's form changed when Arteta had the bollocks to throw Aubameyang out. Arsenal then have been on an amazing run since.
Yeah. But the thing is with Newcastle is the owners, they're not the most experienced football people. Ryan.
Just going back to the Aubameyang thing, I wouldn't be surprised to see him rock up at Barcelona for a nominal fee. It's been rumoured a lot.
Really?
It's been rumoured a lot. They have signed Ferran Torres for January. But he's, I think, one more for the long term. I think they're looking at for an experienced short-term striker. And Aubameyang's got history from, I think it was at Borussia Dortmund, and they had issues with him turning up late and rocking up late. But they weren't as strict about it as Mikel Arteta's been. So I think on the continent, they're a bit more flexible to it. He was actually seen in Barcelona recently, quote, to see his unwell mother and to get a tattoo. I just find it a little bit coincidental that he's also been linked with Barcelona and then rocks up in the city to get a tattoo and see his mum.
No tattoo shops in North London.
I thought there's plenty of tattoo shops in North London and reputable ones. Okay, Arsenal, are they anyone coming in for Arsenal that you can see?
Not really. I think Arteta builds his squad quite particular, and they're on a good form. The one thing I'd say is, could they look at a striker? But I think that might be a summer thing when they get rid of Nketiah and Aubameyang moves on. So I think maybe not this window.
And they've got some youngsters starting. Martinelli's coming through and scoring goals, isn't he? I've had him on FM on loan. Very good.
Have a bit of FM.
Got to keep him fit though.
Yeah,
that's the key.
Aston Villa. Let's look at Villa.
I don't know if they can afford to do much.
Didn't they blow the Grealish money in the summer? January's a terrible time to be doing business, isn't it? Really, it's not the best transfer window. It's not. It's anyone who does a lot of business. It strikes me as a bit of panic going on. Do we agree?
Yeah, I think also clubs don't want to sell mid-year. Like a lot of the managers argue, don't they, that there shouldn't be a window in January. It's difficult to clubs want more money. It's during the season, you've got your squad ready. So it's very difficult to do business. And often, as you said, the teams that do the business in January are the ones that are in trouble or are, underperforming.
Ryan.
Either that or they've been working on a deal for a long time and they've been trying to push it through, because we did it with Fernandez. We worked on that deal for about a year.
But it was a fiery call as well. Sheringham.
Yeah, arguably we are not in a great place at the moment, Manchester United, but I can't see us going out and spending money considering Ralph Rangnick is only going to be in the job till the end of the season and then is moving elsewhere. It seems pointless to me to say, right, go and sign players you want who are then probably going to not be wanted by another manager in the summer. It makes no sense.
The team I'm intrigued to see if they do much will be Tottenham.
Conte will want to put his stamp on, won't he?
This is a Conte who, left Inter Milan because he said, like, you're not going to give me money to build a team. So,
and he signed for Tottenham, really.
So I'm assuming he's gone to Tottenham, and they've said to him, listen, here's the money, because why else would he go there?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming, plus Tottenham, they need to bolster their squad. Like, as much as he's turned them around, and I still think that, and I think they're genuinely, Tottenham are one of the contenders for that 4th place now. I still think that they need to improve their defence. Their centre-backs stink, and they still need a backup for Kane.
Tottenham worry me because apparently there's rumours coming out of White Hart Lane and Old Trafford that they've got a very big interest in Dean Henderson to replace Hugo Lloris.
Yes, I saw that yesterday.
I'm not happy about that because I'm a big Dean Henderson fan. I want him to stay at my club. However, if he would like to sign Anthony Martial and work his magic on him and see if he can get a tune out of him, be my guest. We'll take the cash.
With regard to Henderson, Rangnick apparently has met with him and said, you're not going anywhere in this window.
Henderson wants to leave, doesn't he? Because he wants to play.
He wants to play.
No,
he wants to play for England.
Yeah, so he asked to go out on loan.
If Newcastle have got any sense, they would chuck a 6-month loan deal at Man United for Henderson.
Yeah. Couldn't disagree with that.
Complete sense.
But I think that, but if I was Henderson, I'd be very wary to do that unless they've got, get signed 2 or 3 defenders in front of him, because otherwise he's going to have a sore back picking the ball out the back of the net every 2 minutes.
Henderson goes to Newcastle. I wouldn't go to Henderson. If I was Henderson, I wouldn't go near Newcastle.
Go near
the defence in front of you is fucking awful.
He played for Sheffield United.
Yeah, they had the season he played. The season he played for Sheffield United, they had a half decent.
No, they had a good system. But if you look player for player, at the quality of player that Sheffield United had as defenders, they're not that much different to what Newcastle have got.
Yes, but they had a system and they were successful.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, game time is game time. It's the one thing he's not.
No.
Because it's the one thing he's not getting.
No, not for a goalkeeper. Game time when you're getting beaten every week is not game time that you want.
I wouldn't go to Newcastle.
I wouldn't go to a club where you're going to be picking the ball out of your net every 5 minutes.
Let me just make this argument for you. For that argument, then Sam Johnston. He was amazing for West Brom. Everyone was raving about him, and he still went down. He was in the England squad and everything. He still went down. Game time is game time. And if you're playing out of your skin, whether you're in a bad team or a good team, you need to be playing games.
You need to be playing games, but I would argue you don't need to be playing them at Newcastle if you're trying to get in the England squad. Seriously.
And also, goalkeepers, it takes one bad year or one bad patch.
And your reputation is buggered.
And your reputation's done. Like Jordan Pickford, as much as I'm not his biggest fan, he had one really bad year, and now everyone says he's the worst England keeper we've got. As much as he wouldn't be my England number one, I don't think he's terrible.
I mean, I've seen decent keepers who've had a bad season or a couple of bad games here and there, and their reputation has been destroyed. And it's the one position where it's really very difficult. It's very, very hard to recover your reputation. And I wouldn't, if I was Dean Henderson, want to get myself anywhere near Newcastle United.
However, speaking of Dean Henderson, as Ryan said, if Tottenham did call me and say, "Hey, you want to come here?" I would run over there.
Yeah, because
Hugo Lloris is poo, and Tottenham are going to side that if you ignore you have Eric Dier in your back five. Has the potential to be a top side. He'll still be in Europe.
I'm sorry, didn't and Conte say that Dier is going to be one of the best defenders ever?
Yeah, but I think maybe he was on mushrooms or something during.
I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to blow smoke up Dier's arse just to see if he can get him playing some sort of level of football. That's all he's after doing there.
Something needs to move him.
I don't think he genuinely believes that. If he does, then Tottenham are in a world of shite.
I'm interested to see if Chelsea are going to do anything because they've been hit hard by COVID. They've had injuries. Sol's come in and has not been a very good signing. I could see him leaving in January. And obviously Lukaku started and then got COVID and injured. So it'd be interesting to see if they even sign someone on a loan just to cover their back. Someone like a Wijnaldum that Dan just said to plug the holes in their midfield.
It sounds like they're going to be doing business for a left back. Because Ben Chilwell's out till it sounds like this time next year. So
they have no faith in Alonso.
No, why would you?
They could always recall Emerson, I suppose.
I mean, Ian Martin's there. He's better than Emerson.
Okay, some stuff that is there are Man United and others are looking at Rafinha at Leeds United. What do we make of that rumour?
I can't imagine Leeds wanting to sell him. He's the only player that they've got that's half decent and fit.
Leeds, they asked the Leeds director of football about Rafinha, and he said, I can't remember the exact quote, but it was along the lines of, sometimes you have to sell your best players to keep building your club.
So,
which hints to me that either there's a done deal or that they're very alert to the fact that teams are around Rafinha and are going to sell. Liverpool were heavily linked to him, United as well.
how long's Phillips out for at Leeds?
I've got a clue. I didn't know he was injured. So.
He's been injured for a while, hasn't he? But
I
he's
don't
a
watch
player.
Leeds. I find Leeds boring as hell.
But
Marcelo
he's a
Bielsa
player,
is
a current England international, and he's a player that would look good in a better Premier League side, I would argue.
But I think the same for Rafinha. And when you know, the director of football's coming out making that quote, as I said, for me, there's either a deal done already or
he's preparing the ground, isn't he? For
preparing. You don't come out and say, like, sometimes you have to sell your best player to keep the club where they are. To me, that sounds like, as I said, Rafinha's got a deal already, or there's one very close to being done.
Yeah. Okay. Liverpool.
I was just going to say, sorry, I was just going to quickly say on Leeds, I think there's going to be big changes in the summer. So I think they might be prepared to sacrifice him in the summer, not now, because I think Bielsa's probably going to be out of the door come the summer.
I think he needs to be.
Do you think he's had his day at Leeds?
I think his style worked to get them up. It took him a while to get it all done and get it up.
Yeah.
But we talked, was it last week, Dan? I think it was, or maybe the week before. We talked, he's just burnt out that entire Leeds squad now. They've got no energy left. They're getting injury after injury now. And the only thing that's going to change that is a change in manager.
As Ryan said, like he's burnt the squad out. He's had the same squad barring a handful of players for 3 seasons. He's known for his harsh training methods. And a lot of them have had internationals and have been away with European countries or South American countries for Copa Americas, Euros, etc. World Cup qualifications. They've not had a break. The team's knackered. They look dead on their feet. They're getting smashed about by all the big sides because they just don't have the energy to stick with them.
This is history repeating itself with them, because in their early seasons under Bielsa, they would look great for half a season, and then they would look dead on their feet for the rest of the season. The only season where they didn't was the season they went up, and then the season
was COVID.
in the Premier League.
The year they went up was COVID, and I'm convinced that COVID break was the reason they went up. Because the year before, as you rightly said, they had 2 years where they were fantastic, and the squad died off towards the end of the year.
Any final transfer rumours that we think, anything outrageous out there? Is anything outrageous going to happen? It doesn't normally. I mean, there have been the odd one. I mean, I remember Torres going to Chelsea. I mean, Chelsea paying an absolute fortune for Torres in the January window and wasting spunking God knows how many millions on that transfer. Is there a deal waiting to be done that we don't know about that might come out and surprise us all? Do you think?
I don't think in England. I think Barcelona are going to be busy, with their bullshit that we've discussed previously.
And they've made one signing already, haven't they?
They've made one in Torres. It looks like they're about to sign Morata. So
let's not go back into the finances of how the fuck they've managed to do that again.
Right, all I will quickly say on the Barcelona situation is I can tell you exactly how they've done that. They've taken out a €600 million loan from Goldman Sachs to pay off existing loan payments and improve the squad. And they've then, on top of that, taken out another €1.5 billion loan to upgrade the Nou Camp because it's falling apart. So that's how they've done that.
Well, I'll tell you what, Goldman Sachs. I hope Goldman Sachs have got a nice executive box at the Nou Camp, because Jesus,
there is a concern because obviously part of Barcelona is fan owned because of the structure that they have. There is a concern that if they don't get, after this bout of loans, if they don't get the finances under control, then Goldman Sachs are basically going to end up owning Barcelona.
They've shown precious little ability to keep their finances under control up till now, have they? So I would fair bet that Goldman Sachs have got a nice asset coming their way.
Just after it was announced that they'd got this loan, Barcelona released their annual debt money, accounts, and their debt has now reached £1.2 billion.
No, that's just wrong.
How were you a football club still?
How are you
before the loan that they've taken out?
How are they passing any sort of financial fair play in any way, shape, or form? Sorry, it's just that they're making a nonsense.
Got an income of whatever Ryan said.
Yeah, that's just nonsense. It's I'll use one word to sum it up: bollocks.
Bollocks. Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
Dan, what was that figure you just said?
£1.2 billion.
Right, that will then be would have been the figures before they got the loan from Goldman & Sachs. So you've got to add another 2.1 billion on top of that.
Jesus.
So you're looking about 3.3 billion pounds.
Oh,
and the reason they get away with financial fair play is because at the moment they're not buying players or spending mass amounts on wages because they simply can't afford to.
And it's all income
they've got are youth products now.
Yeah, and you got to remember that even if it's a loan and a debt on the FFP scale, they've just brought £500 million into the club. It doesn't matter how it's gone into the club, but they've just had £500 million.
Again, I'll say the word I used a moment ago: bollocks. Total bollocks. Let's knock the transfers on the head now, and let's now the best strikers. Here we go, best strikers. Now, listen, I think I should go first because I've only got a handful.
Pre-war, yeah.
No, not pre-war. And I've got to
when
say,
I were a lad, I watched this.
Listen, right? You're not going to find Cruyff, Maradona, Messi, Totti, George Best, Ronaldo. I'm sticking with strikers. Bergkamp was an incredible player, but like Totti, he was a forward, and I'm not having that. So it's my definition of a striker. And I'll start. And Ryan, you'll like this one, but I'm going to back up with stats. But this one, players that I've seen, watched, and that I liked, not necessarily the greatest strikers in the world, but I'd argue they're close. Dennis Law.
Yep, can't argue with that.
Manchester United. 485 games in his career from Huddersfield, Man United, and I think he was in Italy briefly.
Man City as well.
He scored. Well, here we go. This is my thing about a striker. A striker is ruthless. It doesn't matter who he's playing against, he will score the goal that's needed. Dennis Law scored the goal that condemned Manchester United to relegation in 1974 with a cheeky back heel flick. Ryan doesn't want to hear this, so he's left the room, if you noticed. And but he scored goals. He actually scored 6 goals in a game for Huddersfield Town, and the game was abandoned, and they were all chalked off. That happened. In his league career, his international career, he only had 55 caps. In those 55 caps for Scotland, he scored 37 goals. Not bad. Players that I admire, another one that I really like, former, and I've mentioned him before on the pod, former Olympique Marseille player, French striker, Jean-Pierre Papin. 438 games in France and 228 goals, 54 caps, 30 goals. But I've stuck in here Pele. I've got to have Pele in there. He played 636 games, most of them for Santos, a few for New York Cosmos. In those 638 games, he scored 618 goals. In his international career, 92 games, 77 goals. Not bad. But for me, the deadliest striker I ever saw, and sadly passed away earlier this year, Gerd Müller, the Bomber. He scored... He played for Bayern Munich and a couple of other clubs, but mainly Bayern Munich. 453 games. He scored 398 goals in Germany. His international record for West Germany, he played 62 games and scored 68 goals. The man was an utter goal machine. And to watch him, he did so at 1970 World Cup, England, West Germany. Gerd Müller was the man. Anything in the 6-yard box, he was absolutely lethal. Absolutely lethal. Gerd Müller is my greatest striker of all time, as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to give. I did make Dan. Sorry.
No Marcus Bent.
No.
Oh, okay.
Or Franny Jeffers.
Oh, shame. Fox the box.
Now, from a Charlton point of view, the stats are quite clear who the greatest striker at Charlton is. It's probably someone, Derek Hales or someone like that. But for me, the best I saw at Charlton, and I'm afraid injury curtailed his career at Charlton, scored one of the best hat-tricks I have ever seen.
Mooney.
And in one of the most precious situations. Clive Mendonca was a pure out-and-out striker. Out and out. And if you look at his three goals in the playoff final, there's not many other strikers around that would have taken those 3 goals. But for injury, he'd have been a much better player, I think. And if he'd have got to Charlton a few years earlier, who knows? But that's just my favourite Charlton, and I'll put that one in there. And that's purely for pick, bench, sell later on when Ryan's going to throw it out back against me. So those are my players. I mean, I love some of the strikers around today, but for me, I don't care about his build-up play. I couldn't give a toss if a striker can't kick a ball to save his life. What I want is someone that will do damage in the 6-yard box. And the ultimate, as far as I'm concerned, and will never be beaten, is Gerd Muller. Over to you, boys, and let's talk bollocks. I mean, let's talk.
Right, first one. There's no argument.
There's no arguing with mine.
Hold on. No, I don't care about yours. It was pre-war. I don't know. I went around. You were. Yeah. First one, no arguments. Big Ronaldo, Brazilian Ronaldo. Move on.
Yeah, no fat bloke. Yeah, definitely.
His record is unreal.
Go on.
In every team he played
Throw some stats at me.
Cruzeiro, 12 in 14. PSV, 42 in 46. Barcelona, 34 in 37. Inter Milan, 49 in 68. Real Madrid, 83 in 120. And Corinthians, 18 in 31. And 62 in 98 games for Brazil. Goal scorer. What a player. Just an unreal footballer. Unreal.
Are we saying he's the best Ronaldo ever?
I mean, probably not overall.
I think so, because of, when you look at internationally.
But, I mean, Cristiano records internationally is equally as good.
Yeah, he hasn't won that much.
He's won 2 Euros.
Goal scorer of all time.
Yeah, and he's 2 Euros. He's my favourite striker of all time. I won't say he's the best, but he's my favourite.
Right.
Can I also say, I've also got another one that isn't on the list, but I'd just like to say it's a striker I think is criminally underrated because of the way he played and he's not on the list, so I'm not comparing him to the list of the names we're going to say. Jermaine Defoe.
Yep, I'll give you that.
If I want a striker to sit in the box and just score,
yep, I'm with you.
Considering Jermaine Defoe. Obviously, he's not at the level of anyone that's on this list. I've got a list of about 10 players, and he doesn't come close to any of them. But if you're just talking about someone who's going to sit in the box and score you goals, I'm having Jermaine Defoe.
In his prime, you're signing him, aren't you?
Oh, hell yeah.
Especially if you're Harry Redknapp.
No, I would say I'm amazed.
Anywhere.
I'm amazed. He could have played at any club in England, and he would have been a success. Yeah, I don't think there's a club. I think he wouldn't have looked at a place at Man United without a shadow. He would have got hundreds. He would have scored. He would have been a hero at Man United. He would have been a legend had he gone to Man United.
They just didn't. The good thing again, it's one of those things. But United didn't need him because they already had some fucking amazing strikers. But
Ferguson did like him because Ferguson used to ask after him quite a lot. Whenever he spoke to Harry Redknapp, Ferguson would ask him about how the boy Defoe was getting on. So Ferguson had an interest and knew the talent was there. But as you said, Man United had strikers, and I'd say Defoe's better than Michael Owen every day of the week.
Owen's not on my list.
Owen wouldn't get anywhere near my list, but I think I actually have to agree with Pete on the Defoe versus Owen debate. Owen
it's not a debate to be had.
Had a fantastic start to his career, but very quickly his career petered out to be nothing more than an average player. So
I think injuries buggered him, but I think wherever Defoe's gone, he's scored goals. Pretty much up until the latter part of his career, when he's an old man, he's just playing for the money. He's still doing it for Rangers, and good luck to him. He's gone to Scotland, and I don't blame him for going to Scotland because he's extended his career. He'd be washed up and finished by now. I thought he'd gone, but no, he's at Rangers.
He's unbelievably fit though, Jermaine Defoe.
I argue, had he gone to a top-notch side, I just think he made some bad moves in terms of.
He followed Harry. That was his biggest problem.
Well, there's a load of players that followed Harry. Crankchar was another one that followed Harry. Odden Wingy tried to and ended up in the car park getting cold.
I'll never forget that.
So let's move on. Who else have you got, Dan? But Defoe is, Defoe is one of the greatest Premier League strikers of his generation, without a shadow of a doubt.
So you mentioned Bergkamp. So we'll start there. I think it's impossible. Me and Ryan kind of loosely touched upon this subject last week about players that we think would come up. So Bergkamp and Henry, we talked about for about 10 minutes in the last podcast. So we don't have to spend 10 minutes talking about them again in this podcast, but great footballers. And Ryan made the point, obviously Henry was a striker when he came to Arsenal first.
He was a left winger.
And then now he's looked at as kind of the man that made the modern day striker in many ways, as Ryan pointed out. I have then 3 Man United strikers in a row: Rooney, Van Nistelrooy, Van Persie. All 3 of them were none of them are playing anymore. Fantastic strikers.
I loved Van Nistelrooy. I think, I know Rooney had a very successful career, but I think there is an element that he was a little bit lazy in terms of, I don't think he trained it, as I think we've touched on this before. I don't think he made the best of his talent. I think there was more to come from Rooney, and that's just down to work. I think Van Nistelrooy, I mean, Man United were going to sign him, and then he did his knee in, and Fergie kept phoning him up and saying, "Don't worry, son, we're waiting." Fergie knew, and Van Nistelrooy to me was amazing. And you can see how much the opposition hated Van Nistelrooy, because when you see how Keown reacted to Van Nistelrooy in that game, that tells you how scared Arsenal were of Van Nistelrooy. Van Nistelrooy, I thought was a brilliant player for Man U. Player.
There's an interview with him where they said, if you had to play for another team in England, who would you play for? And he said Charlton.
95 goals in 150 appearances. I think that's money well paid.
Charlton now. Isn't he coach at Madrid or somewhere now?
No, he's a sporting director at PSV or somewhere like that.
He is a Charlton fan, though. He is a Charlton fan. We've always had that.
He made a comment about playing for Charlton, so that.
He has asked and he clarified it. He has clarified that in England.
I read the interview not long ago. Actually, it was a few weeks back. They said to him, if you had to play for another team in England, he said, "I'd want to play for Charlton," and he didn't explain why. So I was like, "Okay, I'll take it." Yeah. Who
else have you got, Dan?
Messi, obviously.
Yep.
Alan Shearer, goals.
Yeah. And not just tap-ins with Shearer. He'll do it with the head. He'll do it from outside the box. I like Shearer. Selfish, greedy bastard. That's what you need to be if you're a striker. Greedy bastard.
One of my other favourites that doesn't get mentioned often is German forward, Polish forward, but played for German. Miroslav Klose.
Yep.
Another just goal machine. 70 goals, and I think 120 caps for Germany. Most of his goals were scored at Kaiserslautern and Werder Bremen compared to Bayern Munich. He did do all right at Bayern Munich. Injuries, didn't it, towards the back end?
Isn't he got the most goals in World Cup football as well, isn't he? Podolski?
He's been passed.
He's just been passed, but he had that record.
But the record was, he'd scored an absolute ton. And I remember, I want to say they won the 2010 World Cup, but I think it was the World Cup before that, 06. He just terrorised everyone, and you knew coming back to 2010, it's going to be Miroslav Klose.
Yeah. Who else you got?
Sadly for him, he didn't make the list. I think so. The next one is Raul from Real Madrid.
Oh, I liked him.
Champions League. I think Messi's just overtaken him, but he was the leading goal scorer of the Champions League.
I have him down as a forward more than a striker.
He was a goal scorer.
But
boy.
He was. I loved the way he played. I loved watching him play. I think he was just a joy to watch. Carry on. Yep, go on.
Then I've got. So I wanted to put Shevchenko because his form at Milan his record at Milan was incredible. However, Chelsea was it didn't go well for him, did it? At Chelsea, he had a few issues, bless him.
No, and that's actually a similar reason to why Fernando Torres doesn't make my list, because you could argue during his time at Liverpool, Fernando Torres was amazing, but when he got to Chelsea, shat the bed.
Then I've got 2 more. Hernan Crespo.
Again, that's another one though, isn't it? Amazing in Italy, but rubbish in the Premier League.
Yeah, But if you take out his Chelsea spell, even then his Chelsea spell is 20 goals in 48 games. That's not woeful.
No, it's not. But
Compared
it's not what you'd expect.
Yeah, compared to what he did at Inter Milan, Lazio, and Parma, fair enough. But even for Argentina, scored once every 2 games. And then the last one, I've just deleted my list and I can't remember who the last one was.
Right. Well, shall I take over then, as you've just deleted
I
yourself?
just closed the list and I can't remember who the last one was.
Right. Well, you've knocked off a lot of mine, I've got to say. So that's how narrowed it down quite nicely. Go on.
I've just remembered. Sergio Aguero. There you go. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I definitely think Sergio Aguero is vastly underappreciated in terms of his Premier League career. He's been one of arguably the best strikers we've ever had. He's, in my opinion, he's up there with the likes of Shearer and everyone else as a goal scorer. I do want to quickly touch on Ruud van Nistelrooy again, though, because I think had Ruud van Nistelrooy been at Manchester United longer, I think he probably would have got. He had the potential to beat Alan Shearer's goal scoring record, I think.
Yeah, and Aguero, go back to Aguero. The other thing that is amazing about Sergio Aguero is he missed basically a third of every season he played in the Premier League.
Yeah,
and the and the amount of goals he got from basically playing 2/3 every year, it's incredible. Imagine what he's like if he had full seasons. Unreal.
Right. Like Pete, you've got to differ between forwards and goal scorers, so it's forwards and strikers. However, I do have a fondness for what were known then as second strikers, not necessarily number 10s, but they came off of the striker, still scored goals as well.
Emil Heskey.
No.
I'll take your Emil Heskey and I'll raise you Peter Beardsley. You talk to Gary Lineker about Beardsley.
Let's move away from that one. Obviously, the big one, second striker, was Eric Cantona. We've discussed before what he did for Manchester United. There is one player I want to give a very special mention to because he gets overlooked a lot because Dennis Bergkamp arrived in the Premier League around the same time.
Carl Leyburn.
No, that was Gianfranco Zola. This guy was about 5'5", but was an absolute magician. He had such a low center of gravity, you could not knock him off the ball. He had the pace, the poise. He was such an elegant football player. He didn't score as many goals as some of the others, but I love Gianfranco Zola. I wish he'd signed for Man United. I really did. 2 others also in that mould. Roberto Baggio. I think Pete will know this one more than Dan. I don't think you can argue with Baggio's history, and he was a hell of a player to watch. And his eventual successor at Juventus, which was Alessandro Del Piero. He was a player and half. He really was. His free kicks, in between him and Beckham, there was just no contest. It really wasn't. It was just like I could sit and just watch a free kick shoot off between those two all day. But he was such a skillful and elegant player for Juve as well.
Can I just throw another name in?
Go on.
Gabriele Batistuta.
I thought you were going to say
I'm going to get to him in a minute.
I loved him.
Really thought you were going to say Bong Lahore for a minute. I was about to cry.
No, why would I say Bong Lahore?
We will get to Batistuta in a minute.
Batty goal's got to be in there somewhere, surely.
Romario is obviously another one who's a legend who speaks for himself.
With Bebeto playing alongside him, the two of those two together should have won the '94 World Cup, but they didn't.
Another personal favourite of mine, who you may have heard of, you may not have, I think Pete probably will have, is Marcelo Salas, who used to play for Juventus.
Yes.
He was very similar to Carlos Tevez. He was like 1,000,000 miles an hour, really rough, really ready.
Yeah.
But boy, could he score goals.
Crespo? Hernan Crespo? Is he in there?
Dan brought him up.
Yep. All right. That's when I nipped out of the room briefly, sorry.
Christian Vieri as well. Hell of a big unit he was. He was a big old player.
Basically, Italy strike force in 2006.
Can I throw another Italian that I really liked in?
Go on.
From the early mid-90s, Giuseppe Signori.
Giuseppe Rossi.
More forward than a striker.
Giuseppe Signori, not Giuseppe Rossi. No. Giuseppe Signori at Lazio.
Yeah, he was very good.
Since then, been done for match fixing, but I saw an interview with him. But he's a hell of a player, though. Could score goals just for fun.
Roberto Mancini was a very similar player to Signori as well, so I wouldn't give him that one. I showed Dan a goal last week.
Go on.
Yes.
That is on our Twitter page, I believe. If Dan, did you post it up?
No, but I can do.
was of Monsieur George Weah. His time at AC Milan
Yeah.
was on. There's a goal that we talked about last week where
This
he
is where
took
he
on.
ran. He took the whole team
Yeah.
on. Yeah,
He received the ball on the edge of his own penalty box, took the whole team on, and then very coolly, very calmly, just slided it beside the goalkeeper once he'd finished.
Allegedly, he had a relative who wasn't that good.
Yes.
Yeah, his son is playing now.
No, he's the one who played, allegedly a relative who played for Southampton for about 20 minutes.
I was just making a joke.
Oh, yeah, all right, okay. Has he got a son? Carry on.
Timothy Weah played for PSG.
Oh, yeah. Go on.
Second from last is David Villa, formerly of Barcelona. I think he was at Valencia as well.
Yes,
he was a goal machine. And finally, a player that Pete's already brought up, who's arguably my favourite striker of all time ever, being a young lad watching Italian football in the early 90s. Gabriel Batistuta was an absolute goal machine.
Fiorentina?
Yes. He went on, I think, briefly to play for Roma and Inter afterwards, but he wasn't as good. And he was banging in goals at a time where the defending and the dark arts that is linked with Italian football was at its peak. So it was so difficult to get into double figures during the 90s.
Whoa, I smell bullshit there. I'll call bullshit there because I've got to tell you, when my players like Gerd Muller in the 70s, you've seen nothing of defending and dark arts. What you're talking about was they were mimicking what went on in the 60s and 70s when the dark arts and the early 80s, when the dark arts were not just dark arts, they were out there in your face. Go and watch Diego Maradona playing for Barcelona. Watch him get kicked all over the pitch. Go and watch the likes of Emiliano Bottigano playing for Real Madrid, and the defenders defenders like Barcelona, Real Madrid, and the Italian defenders, to a man, rather than kick the ball, would kick the striker. See how
changed then.
I tell you, the dark arts, there was no dark arts about it back in those days. Back in those days, it was all out war on the strikers' ankles, and I would argue it was harder to score in the 70s and 80s because you got more protection. A striker is a protected species and has been for about 20-25 years compared with what those lads in back in the day had. So I'm not having this dark arts in the 90s and the 90s. No, the dark arts happened. It was go and watch a Leeds United game from 1971-72 and then tell me what. Go and watch Leeds United versus Chelsea FA Cup final and then talk about dark arts. Go and watch any game that Ron Harris played in. Any game that Ron Harris played in. Johnny Giles, that lot.
Oh dear.
Sorry, I'm just saying that I'm salty about this because the dark arts, that's just bollocks. It's a myth.
Oh dear, listener, I appear to have upset Grandpa.
It's just a fucking myth.
Well, let me put it this way: it was very difficult at that time to get into double.
Yes, but not as difficult as in the 70s and fucking 60s
to score goals.
But me and Ryan were nowhere near there yet. You were in your mid-50s by then already.
But Batistuta was banging in between about 20 and 30 goals a year every year.
Two more names before we move on.
All right, go on.
That haven't been mentioned. Lewandowski.
Yes.
Should have been the Ballon d'Or winner this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he got robbed too. We already said it was a.
So he'll win it next year as a. Sorry,
no, they created an award especially for him.
I'd shove that award where the sun don't shine, and I'd tell them where to shove it.
All I will say now, quickly on the Ballon d'Or, is the fact that it is no longer relevant because it used to be, but FIFA have moved away from it and given their own trophy out now. So basically, it's just a magazine in France.
Who won that one? Who won the FIFA one then this year?
I don't know. It hasn't been announced as far as I'm aware.
No, it was Lewandowski.
Okay, yeah, Lewandowski. Who else? Anyone else?
Drogba.
No.
Yes. Yeah, no. Drogba was good. Yeah, I am. I'm afraid
he was good, but he's not in the league of Lewandowski and that lot.
He scored in every big game he was in.
Yeah, I've got to say Drogba's up there.
No, not for me.
In every major game that he played in, he scored.
Yeah,
so
won titles.
That's enough. That's enough for me.
Yep. I'm there.
A striker that I can chuck in that scores in every big occasion. If you're telling me I can pick a striker and that he needs to perform on a big occasion,
It's
Drogba's in
Drogba.
consideration.
Yeah, Drogba's
All
going
right,
to
then.
be considered.
Who are you having? We'll move on to pick bench sell. If I give you a choice between Alan Shearer, Didier Drogba, or Raul, who are you picking?
Drogba starts.
I start Drogba because so the Alan Shearer that I saw is the back end of Alan Shearer's career.
I start Drogba over Shearer.
I start Drogba and I have Raul on the bench because Shearer for me was the 34, 35-year-old that was, I mean, still scoring goals against Charlton, but wasn't the player that
I would pick if I want a player to play in a cup final and score a goal, I want Drogba.
I'm taking Raul every day of the week.
I'm taking
There's a
Drogba.
name on my sheet. It's Raul.
The reason I'm taking
Love
Drogba
Drogba.
is his physical presence as well. He'll
Yeah,
get
but
you
he
goals.
fell over like a pansy and rolled around.
Yeah,
like
I've
a
got
hoe.
free kicks.
Who
Yeah.
doesn't?
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't?
Sorry, Cristiano Ronaldo. Does he
Yeah,
stay
but
on his feet? I've seen him lifted up by Roy Keane and been told we don't fucking do that here. He still
Yeah, I was
carries
at
on
that
doing
game
it.
too.
He still carries on doing it. No, you
Drogba
can't dismiss
went
a
down
player
like he got
because he
shot.
falls over.
He went down like he got shot.
Part of the
Everyone
job.
goes down like they get
It's part
shot.
of the job. You name me a player that
If
doesn't.
it was
plays
that
up
part of
front.
the job, then why did he stop doing it?
I'm telling you now, if I'm a manager, I tell my players to do that because that's the only way you're going to win.
There's
Free
not
kicks and
a
penalties.
striker in the world that
There's
doesn't
there's
fall over when
no,
someone
I'm
farts
sorry.
near him.
There's a difference between going down under
Watch football
contact.
without blinkers and then come back to me.
It's got nothing to do with blinkers. There's a difference between going down under contact and rolling around like you've been hit by a sniper from the roof of the stadium.
That's
He
the
stopped doing it because he got
done it.
so much press and stick for doing
yes,
it.
and he
Yeah,
did
but
it. And he did it to win free kicks, and
I
it
mean,
succeeded. And when it
as I
stopped,
said-
when they stopped getting free kicks for it, as you said, he stopped. Clever,
As I
clever.
said,
I want him on my team.
if
That's
I
the
was
sort
a
of
coach-
devious bastard I want.
If I'm a coach, I'm telling my strikers, you overreact because that's how you win free kicks. You don't.
Yeah,
if
you
if
go.
you're honest, if you're honest in a tackle and you're not going to get anything, so overreact because you're more likely to get anything.
I don't want you riding a tackle in the box. I want you going down. That's
I just, as I said, my reason for Drogba is no matter what you think of his ability or what he does as a player, you put him on the pitch in a big game, he's going to score.
So you'd have him over Romario, the original
I
Ronaldo.
never watched Romario, so I can't comment.
You'd have him over the original Ronaldo, would you?
No, that's different. Ronaldo.
Right.
Is...
Well, no, it's not. If you're
No, it is.
picking a
Hang on,
player,
Hang on. I never said I picked Drogba over everyone.
yeah.
But I said,
But those
you're
three you
telling
just
me-
gave us, those three you gave us. Drogba's the first on my sheet.
I'd have Drogba in the majority of people. There's not many people I'd had him over him.
But if
Because
I'm
in a
honest
big
with
game,
you,
he would turn up.
But if I'm honest with you, out of all that, like, I would. I don't care who you say. I will pick Gerd Muller till my dying day. Would be my striker, be my pick regardless. Gerd Muller, absolutely Gerd Muller. Wasn't the best footballer in the world, but any ball came in the 6-yard box, it was in the back of the net. Pound
okay,
for
so
pound.
out of Premier League strikers, you mentioned Defoe. So who are you picking? Defoe, Shearer, or Van Nistelrooy?
Van Nistelrooy.
Van Nistelrooy.
Over Shearer,
Yeah.
the top league goal scorer of all time.
Again,
Yeah.
I can't. My thing with Shearer, as I said,
I
is
preferred Van
didn't
Nistelrooy.
watch him at the best.
I
think
watched
Van
Shearer,
Nistelrooy-
and Shearer was great, but I think Van Nistelrooy was the better.
And as
for
you
me.
said, Ryan, when Pete was away, if Van Nistelrooy stays at United longer, he probably
Yeah.
smashes the record.
Yeah.
So
I think for Van Nistelrooy, and it's very rare for me to say about a Man United player, but it's just what I see. I would have picked Van Nistelrooy. Bench and sell after that. I would pick, and here you go. I would possibly pick. It's difficult with so if you've got Van Nistelrooy and I've got Shearer and Defoe, Shearer would have to be on the bench.
Okay, right. Well, we're going to move away just slightly. We're going to stick to pick, bench, sell, but we always do a club one here. So this one's for the both of you.
Fuck it.
So you've got a choice: pick, bench, sell. Clive Mendonca,
Oh.
Darren Bent,
Oh.
or Bradley Wright Phillips.
bye Ben. Sorry, bye Bradley. Sorry,
Bye, Bradley.
That's not
Right.
hard.
Who are you picking on benching though?
I'm picking Clive Mendonca.
The vice versa.
and I'm putting Bent on the bench, and I'm selling. And I'll tell you why I'm picking Clive Mendonca, because I will point you out that he could get a goal. He was just lethal in the 6-yard box. Unfortunately for us, we only had him really for 2 seasons. Really, we had the season we went up, and then part of the season after we were up, and then after that he got injured. And I think Mendonca in the 6, you look at Mendonca's hat trick at Wembley against Sunderland, and then tell me Darren Bent's going to score any of those goals. It's not happening. Move on.
I'm having Bent over Mendonca.
I'll give you a lovely one. Here we go. This one will be for Pete, not for Dan. This is before Dan's time.
Go on.
Cole Leaburn,
Yep.
Kim Grant, or Andy Hunt.
He plays up front. Oh, Andy Hunt. He plays up front.
Right.
He's got
Now, now, there's a thing. This is now. What am I? Am I after goals here?
It's entirely your choice. You've just got to pick one, bench one, and sell one.
Well, I've got to tell you. So I love Cole Leaburn. Cole Leaburn's scoring record is bollocks, and he'll tell you that himself.
It's true.
But then you talk to any player that played in a side along or a side or around Cole Leaburn, and they say who is the best player that you played alongside. And 9 times out of 10, those players from that era will say Cole Leaburn because of what he did for the team. Now, if you're going to play Cole Leaburn, you need a striker alongside him who's going to get the goals. When he first started, it was Paul Williams who scored loads. But of those 3 strikers, so Leaburn, Andy Hunt,
Kim
and
Grant.
who was the other one? Kim Grant.
Kim Grant.
Kim Grant's gone. Kim Grant's gone. Yeah, I'm selling Kim Grant, and I'm starting Andy. I don't. No, that's not enough. Ramadal scored against Palace. He's still a cunt. I mean, I'm being honest. I mean, yeah. I'm not. You came out with a quote. I'm afraid I can't stay at Charlton. I'm not playing in the Championship. Well, you didn't play for Charlton in the Premier League, so do one, you Dutch melt, you Danish melt. Kim Grant is being sold. Lee Bird is on the bench. Andy Hunt plays up front, and his name sounds like a fanny. On that basis, for the song alone, Andy Hunt.
Got a name
Like sounds like a fanny. Oh, Andy Hunt. Andy Hunt was quality. Lee Burn is on the bench.
So quality the Charlton still sing is now.
We still sing that
brings
song.
Kind of a close to sort of our best of and pick bench sell for now. I've picked a very unique one for the both of you. So it encompasses all the players that we've talked about overall. But these ones are just for Charlton as your Charlton fans.
Yeah.
Right. So pick bench sell, Pete. Are you ready?
Go on.
Pete, bye. See you later, mate.
Richard Rufus,
Oi.
Chris Powell,
Oh.
or Jan Kermigan?
Oh, bye, Pete. See you later, mate.
Don't worry, Dan. I've not left you out.
It's all right. Don't want to answer anyway.
That's tough because you've got the greatest, one of the best centre backs who never played for England and should have played for England in Richard Rufus.
It's not tough.
Jan Kermigan
It's not hard.
It's not hard for me, and my explanation is this, and it's for me. This is it. It's Jan Kermigan, it's Chris Powell, and it's goodbye. And I'll tell you why Richard Rufus, and this is purely personal, because to me, as far as I'm concerned, Jan Kermigan, in my eyes, is my most favourite player to ever wear that shirt. Right? Don't look at me like that, Dan. I got an email from him saying Happy Christmas last week. So, you know, Jan Kermigan is my favourite Charlton player of all time. I'm unpinning Dan. I'm going to close this video. Jan Kermigan is my favourite player of Charlton of all time.
I'm so done.
Chris Powell.
Dan, would you like to comment on this
No,
one?
this is purely on emotion. Right? I'll do it on then I'll do it on reality, all right? Emotion. Jan Kermigan, Chris Powell, pick Jan, bench Powell, sell Rufus. Because I had a good relationship with both Jan and Chris Powell. And to me, I still call Chris Powell Gaffer to this day. And Jan is just bromance. I just love the man. There is nothing you could say in any way, shape or form that would turn me against Jan Kermigan. Nothing in the greatest for me. Just I can't begin to tell you how much I admire Jan Kermigan as a player.
And on reality,
on reality, the best of those 3 players is Richard Rufus. pound for pound, the best best defender I've seen who never played for England. There is another one that played for Charlton that should have played for England. His name's John Humphrey. Pound for pound, the best right back who never played for England. But so now, so I'm putting Rufus on as pick, bench, and sell. This is horrible because I love these two. This is just. It fucking is.
So easy.
But Chris Powell is on the bench.
Right, thank you.
I'm not saying any more. That's all I'm saying. Rufus Powell, let's leave it. I'm not saying anything more about it because that's a bastard bollocks horrible one. Move on. Next.
Dan, is that your pick for those as well?
I mean, it's easy. You start Rufus, bench Powell.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
And the other one.
Don't say it.
That's the other thing.
You do the other thing with the other one.
Dan.
Fucker.
You just got to go pure talent. Don't let emotion get to you.
I can't.
Talent.
I can't do that.
Right, Dan. Chris Powell. Darren Bent. Ademola Lookman.
Oh.
You that ready?
Oh.
Start Bent. Start Powell. No, start Bent. Bench Powell.
Dan's
Sell
been
it.
ruthless there. I know how much you love Ademola Lookman.
Again, if you're talking emotionally, then you swap Bent and Powell around. Like as players, start Bent.
I've got one for
Because
Ben.
Chris Powell, not only as a player, as a manager, like for Charlton fans, we don't have many things that we we can look back in the last 20 years and go, hey, that was good. Chris Powell's one of them.
Okay, Dan. I've got one for you. Right. Pick, bench, sell. Right. Leon Colt.
Starts, doesn't he?
Chris Perry. And finally, George Costa.
Start Costa.
Yeah.
Bench Chris Perry. And sell the king. Because, as I said to you, I can separate talent from emotion. And as much as Leon Court is one of my favourite ever Charlton players, talent-wise, Chris Perry and George Costa are better players than him. There's a reason that Leon Court was in League One. Chris Perry and George Costa are Premier League players. So
I'm
it's
delighted to say throughout the whole of pick, bench, sell, I've got away with it because none of you have come up for any for me. So this is beautiful.
because at Man
Hold on.
United, they're all fucking brilliant. And I'm like,
Hold on. Just a cotton picking minute there, Ryan. Let's not go there. Let's not start saying right. Okay, Ryan,
Cantona,
Ruud van Nistelrooy, and Dennis Irwin.
What, pick, bench, sell?
Yeah.
I start Dennis Irwin. Cantona's on the bench. And I sell Ruud van Nistelrooy.
That's what I thought he'd pick.
That really wasn't difficult.
Giggs, Scholes,
Beckham.
and no, because Beckham gets sold.
Giggs, Scholes, Keane. Giggs, Scholes, Keane.
Skull starts, Giggs on the bench, sell Roy Keane.
Yep, agreed. See, Ryan could do what I can do and take emotion out of it and just pick.
Fred Cliberson.
Eric Jemba.
Eric Jemba.
Oh dear, Fred starts.
On the basis he scored a goal recently.
On the basis that compared to Jemba and Cleverson, he's God. Cleverson's on the bench and Jemba can do one.
The other one you could swap Possibon for Fred and let them go to town.
No, to be fair, Possibon never got a chance at Man United.
Lauren Bronk, William Prudier, Fabian Barthez.
Barthez gets sold. I'd rather have Prunier on my bench than Barthez. Lauren Blanc is a World Cup winner who came to us late in his career. That was an easy pick.
Oh dear! Was that your surprise? Was that your surprise at the end?
No.
Oh, we still got that because I've got about a 15-minute window. Shithousery.
Shithousery is really easy this week. I discussed it with Ryan. It's a simple story.
Hold on. I know it's not football, but there is a cricket shithousery that occurred this week.
You've got 15 minutes. Bugger off.
No, I'm not. We're not. Carry on, and I'll tell you why I got up to this week.
So shithouse this week is it goes to me because Football Manager is a thing, and I've basically found the perfect glitch. Basically, football. There's been no football this week because everyone has COVID. So shithouse has been hard to find. So I found a glitch. I on my FM save. I was at the time managing Roma, and a German player came through. He was playing at Stuttgart, I believe it was, and he was worth £10 million, but they wanted 35. So what I did is I offered 5 million and said I'll give you 30 million when he plays for Germany. Now, those of you who will play football manager,
this is shithousery at the extreme.
those of you who play football manager will know that Germany is not a licensed team in football manager.
So, yes.
Every player that plays for the German national team does not exist, isn't even a regen. It's a completely computer-generated player. Therefore, I will never have to pay the £30 million that I owe Stuttgart. So I've played 2 seasons on since then, and every year it reminds me that at some point I'm going to have to pay them £30 million. And the fact is, I'm just not. So therefore, shithouse.
Plonker Pundit has been replaced by Moron Manager.
Well, hang on. We haven't finished with shithousery.
Come on, then.
I indulged in some non-football shithousery on a few nights ago. England summoning all their powers to lose in the Ashes at Melbourne, the MCG.
Bastard.
Tino Best, West Indian fast bowler and shit batsman, famous mainly for being sledged by Andrew Flintoff. And the sledge was at Lord's. Flintoff standing at first slip said, Tino, he's gone out of the room. Look, he's left it.
Let's go get a drink. Just carry on.
Tino is batting towards the end of the play, and Flintoff has gone, mind the windows, Tino. And this is the key phrase, mind the windows, Tino. The next ball comes down, Tino smashes it, and I think is out. Cue Freddie Flintoff laughing his head off as they run to celebrate the wicket, because he's just done Tino. Tino got a bit excitable about England losing the Ashes on the other night and posted a comment about England being load of old, like England were crap. And I just posted back, we beat your lot, Tino. We beat your lot with then the hashtag mind the windows, Tino.
Now, in fairness to Tino, you're wrong. We didn't beat them.
I know, but the hashtag was put there, mind the windows, Tino, as a trigger. Because I knew I was fishing.
But you were factually incorrect.
Although the tweet I sent him to abuse him with was factually incorrect, the whole sole purpose was to trigger him with the words, mind the windows, Tino. And by God, did he get triggered, didn't he, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I have the screenshots. Because he told you to suck, was it suck your daddy, which I quite enjoyed?
Suck your daddy. Yeah, suck your daddy. Your cricket team and your football team are all shite, basically. He lost it completely. He's since deleted everything relating to that tweet. But we've got him. So that's my shithousery.
Dirty grandpa. Can't send him anywhere.
Yours was factually incorrect shithousery.
Look, it doesn't matter. It's still shithousery.
It's factually incorrect. Right. Surprise time.
Right. Hold on. Because Plonker Pundit has been replaced by Moron Manager this week. And that goes to one Pep Guardiola. Because there has been a lot of talk about player welfare with COVID and fixture build-up. And he promptly then went and said maybe the players should go on strike because they got to play 3 games in 6 days. Have a word with yourself.
Sorry, I have to say, I don't give a toss about Christmas fixtures. Boxing Day, I've always found to be a pain in the arse going to football.
That's because you were a steward, though.
No, it was a pain in the arse when I was a fan. I hated it. I had my worst ever experience at the Valley on Boxing Day. 1979, Notts County, tried to lead the game halfway through the second half, couldn't get out of the stadium, got locked in. No. Then when I was working for the club as a commentator, I had to travel to places like Yeovil on Boxing Day. Sorry, I'm not having that.
You've heard it here first. Charlton lock their fans in. It's so bad, they make them stay there and watch
1979.
The one thing I do think they should do on a side note, I think that something that non-league clubs do, and I think that
local
league, I understand it can't be your closest rivals, but I think it should be done locally. So, like, if they're Charlton, for instance, why make us travel to Yeovil
on Boxing Day? We
can play Gillingham or Wimbledon or even Ipswich because they're not. It's not too far. When the other year, I think we had Middlesbrough on Boxing Day. I was like, "Fuck's that? Why?"
I've had a 12 o'clock kickoff at Middlesbrough. That's bang out of order.
I was there
Right.
too.
We're running low on time here, so let's get to this quickly.
Go on then.
Right, so as it's the last one of the year, I thought we'd end with a little quiz. So it's called So You Think You're an Addict, because one of Charlton's nicknames is
The Addicts.
the Addicts. So pun on words there. Right, so 5 questions and 1 tiebreaker.
He's on the
Okay.
border. Oh, fucking hell.
Right, I've
Go
done
on.
this quick. Right, Dan,
Yes.
since 2010,
Yes.
how many times have Charlton been promoted as champions?
Once.
Well done. Pete, how many times since 2010 have they been promoted via the playoffs?
Once.
Well done.
I was
Dan,
there. It was great.
Yeah.
in 2019 EFL League playoff final against Sunderland, who scored for Sunderland?
Naby Sarr.
Naby Sarr. Yeah, Naby.
Technically Naby Sarr, but I'd give it to Dylan Phillips because Dylan Phillips touched it last, but that's fine.
And Pete,
Yeah.
in the same game, who scored the equaliser for Charlton?
Ben Harrington.
I didn't
Well
even
done.
Come
remember
on.
that.
Come on.
It's just a little bit of fun. Right, where are we? Hold on.
I missed that goal.
I didn't.
Dan, in Charlton's title-winning side of 11-12, who was the top league goal scorer?
Oh, come on.
Bradley,
that-
right.
Oh,
Bradley,
for
right,
fuck's sake. How
Bradley,
easy is
right,
that?
right.
Oh, my word. He's a beast.
I miss him so much.
Pete,
Oh,
By the
Christ.
way, can I just put that season? Bradley Wright Phillips scored. I think he scored 26 goals. He went on a 13 game.
Okay, there was a drought. There was a drought, yeah. Because
Because
I interviewed him about it.
fucking
And,
love him.
yeah.
when Charlton returned to the Valley
Yeah.
in their first game on December the 5th, 1992, who was the opposition?
Portsmouth.
Well done.
I was
Colin
there.
Walsh. Next question.
Hold on, where are we?
From a pass by Cole Leeburn.
Who played in goal for the 2019 playoff final? You've already said his name.
Dylan Phillips.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, I mean,
Where are we?
that's all he did for the game. Let one
Right.
in.
Pete, Charlton were relegated from the Premier League in 2006-07.
Yes.
How many managers did they have that season?
3.
Three.
Well done. Can you
They
name
had
them?
Ian Dowie, Les Reed, Alan Pardew. Move on.
Well done.
Kill me. Kill me now.
Kill me now. Kill me now.
Dan, Charlton were relegated from the Championship in 08-09. Who was
shit.
the manager?
08, 09.
Oh,
Phil Parkinson.
Well done.
yeah. Pardew started that season of
Yeah, and Parky sent us.
Parky got the job
That's-
on the back of 7 defeats in 7 games because he proved himself
it's
up to the
working.
job.
Yeah, so
And Pete,
Yeah.
this is for your 5th. So it's Dan's answered 5 correctly. You've got 5 correctly. So we're going to go to a tiebreaker. But Rich Rufus, if you get this right, we go to a tiebreaker. Richard Rufus scored his first senior goal for Charlton in which game?
Playoff final 1998 against Sunderland just before in the second half, a header from a corner.
Right.
Thank you.
great goal.
Right. This is the tiebreaker. So whoever gets this wins. Right. And the winner gets a big bag of which we know what that is. So, you ready?
Yes.
First to answer wins. Who is Charlton's all-time top
Derek
Premier
Hales.
League? No, let me finish.
Yes. Yes.
Who is Charlton's all-time top Premier League scorer?
Premier League or First Division?
Premier League.
Oh shit. Because the all-time Stuart.
Darren
O'Leary,
Bent.
Dan, what's your answer?
Sean Bartlett.
I'm sad to say you're both wrong.
Who is it?
It is actually Jason Ewell with 34
Oh, shit.
goals.
No!
Darren Bent got 31.
So I win on a countback.
No.
No,
Yes, yes,
No.
yes.
technically
Your first
you
answer-
lose on a countback
your first
because you
answer-
shouted out the
Fuck
first
off,
answer
fuck
before I
off,
finished.
move on.
Derek Howes isn't even our all-time leading goal scorer. That's Stuart O'Leary.
Fucking
Which,
hell.
which is what I thought Ryan was going to ask, because who's Charlton's all-time leading goal scorer? And I was getting excited because I was ready to say Stuart O'Leary after you went, Derek Howes.
Sadly, you both got it wrong.
That's it then, boys.
To be
Next
fair,
one.
Yoli was there for a long time.
Next
compared
week,
to the
in
others.
the next episode, Dan and I trialed something last night. If you go on our WhatsApp Ryan,
Ryan's
you'll hear.
aware. He had to sit for it, sadly.
Yeah. So, but something similar. So I'm going to set a question for you both at the start of next week's show, and by the end of it, I need an answer. But you can give your answer in between. During each segment, you can say, "Oh, by the way, was it so and so?" Yeah. So it's going to run throughout the episode, and at the end, you've either got it right or you're wrong, and then whoever gets it right then asks the question the following week, and it needs to be the same sort of format. The format that I liked last night was I mentioned a list of managers, and I said to Dan which player was managed by these managers.
Right. Can I just say the only reason he did this is because he got incredibly salty because I asked the chat what footballer, current midfielder, has scored in every year since 2007 till the modern day in the Premier League.
That was horrible.
And he
Because
guessed
because you threw Newcastle in there, and that was a curveball. You fuck stick.
He said James Milner, and I replied no. He played for Newcastle but didn't score in 2009. Then he guessed again, and I said no. He took that as in to say the player played for Newcastle. Well,
so I went
Milner.
rummaging through the Newcastle players that I knew that was still
the names he was coming up with.
James Tavernier.
James Tavernier, who I said current day Premier League, and he went with James Tavernier, who plays in Rangers.
I was getting desperate. Who was it in the end? I've forgotten.
Mark Noble. Danny Guthrie,
Noble?
He said, who I'm pretty sure retired.
But the one I sent him yesterday, the manager.
Hold on. The only reason I think he got onto this is because he was very salty, and he's had a very salty episode today.
So last night I said who was managed by Harry Redknapp, Martin Yole. There was a list of names, and
got it,
and we got it because I missed off. There's one manager that managed him twice, which was Kirbishley at the start of his career, and then at West Ham, and it was Scott Parker. So what I'm going to set next week is you're going to be looking for a player who's played with or been managed by. That'll be next week. All right.
Is it Gary Taylor Fletcher?
We haven't started. I haven't even. Don't start. You lose points. Right, that's pretty much it for this episode. Don't forget, go and visit Let Us Talk Mental Health Team. They're on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. And any games coming up yet, Dan?
No, we have a draw on the 3rd of January. We have our cup draw, so that will tell us who our next game.
And, of course, the Proper Blokes Club as well, helping men by walking, helping their mental health by walking. They're popping up all over the place now. I've been seeing on Facebook. So go. And also, can you give a follow to Her Game 2 on Twitter? They do some great work. And come on, Charlton, it's about time you got involved with Her Game 2. Ryan, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Have a happy new year.
Dan, thank you very much.
Au revoir.
No, on that sorting out, ta-ra. See you later.